Hi guys, so welcome back. In the previous video we showed you how I edited our raw photos from our recent trip. Previous to that, how to organize our photos from our recent trip. Subscribe to our channel. Our channel deals with a lot of stuff you didn't learn in college or school for that matter. And so in this case, we're going to be talking about just pretty much memories, and after you take a good trip, why it's important to keep those memories in a good way that will help you remember. These memories have a lot of long-term benefits, and again, that's kind of something you didn't learn in college, and a lot of this technology stuff is a lot of things you didn't learn in college, and so here we're going to try to make it a little bit easier. So these are photos or videos from our 360 camera, and it has its own unique process of dealing with the videos, which can be a little bit tedious because, well, you kind of have to direct the videos, like even as you're shooting it, like once you're going to export it, you have to point and shoot to where you want them exactly. So I'll show you one I've already worked on, but this was from our cruise trip. We took a New England cruise, and this was getting back on our little boats back to the big ship, leaving Newport. And so these shots you're able to get them because it's a 360 camera, so they have different unique angles that it does. And I love it because this in particular, the way it's shot is I actually have it on a stick, but part of the software is it deletes the stick, so it actually looks like it's floating, so you never actually see the selfie stick unless you see it in a shadow or something. That's the only time you actually see it, and it gets really cool shots like this one. Here's another one, and this one is a little more still also time-lapse for us getting back to our ship, and you can see the ship there in the distance. And let's just get closer, and so on and so on. Okay, so I'm going to keep going to one that maybe I haven't quite edited all the way. Let's see. Yeah, I think this one doesn't have any edits. So there's a lot of cool features in this, but let's see what we can get to here. So if you can see, this is how I'm being able to move the shot back and forth. So this essentially took shots from every which angle that you want. And so another thing I like about this camera, especially for social media creation, is up here you can change the aspect ratio to whichever ones you'd like. You can make it a 16:9, like more for YouTube, or this for shorts or reels or TikTok. You can make it a square, or you can make it extra wide. And so I like to do the wide one first, because it's going to the final goal for this is to make a vacation video. So I like to do this one first, and then we can easily get a vertical one after that for shorts. So here we are pulling up to the ship. So here in the bottom, this little plus sign, this is where you put a viewpoint. This is the marker that it's starting on, and it pretty much just follows these markers in the different points in the timeline. So if I keep playing the video, it's going to be essentially just looking for the next one, and I can set it or delete it as how I please. So see there, you can see the shadow of the stick, but otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the stick any other way. So usually the way I do these is I like to set all the markers first as to where I want to have the camera essentially follow. So here I wanted to focus on the ship still, and it also has a tracking thing where I could just kind of highlight the ship and it'll track, but sometimes I don't like it kind of sometimes gives it a wider angle than I would like, and so sometimes I feel like I prefer to do it manually. So here's another viewpoint. So now it's going from point A to point B, or actually that was point C already. So there's the first one, going to the next one, and going to the next one, because as the video goes, I may want to turn other directions, and so this way when I set those viewpoints, it keeps it trying to stay on those certain viewpoints. So here, maybe focus on the door a little bit, but I would still like to get the whole ship. And see here, now that I added the other one, you can change the view. And here, the tiny planet, that's how you get those little tiny planet views that we got earlier. But I don't quite want it that wide. But I still kind of do want to see a little more of the whole ship like that. And then here you can update the little marker. And so it shifts it over from where I originally placed it.
What are you doing here?
So continue. And now that we're just about there, maybe I'll narrow it down right about there. So here, maybe I'll put it back to being and dewarp, because like as you make it wider, it tends to warp so dewarp makes it like the lines straight again, if that makes sense. So here, dewarp, update, and so that's what I'll be wanting it to do right there. Oh, that was pretty much the end. Okay, so now that I have all my viewpoints marked, this whole video is 3 minutes and 37 seconds, so I don't actually want to keep the whole clip of this in our final video, so I'm going to shorten it. And it does have a speed option where you can speed up the whole clip, or you can speed up sections. So here, I always like to kind of show you a little bit of the real time first, usually about 2 seconds, and then I'll go into the sped up version of it. Let's go for ×8, and then we'll go all the way. And excuse my voice, I actually have COVID right now, and so my nose is a little runny and stuffed. That's why I might sound a little stuffed. And so here we go. Actually, let's go back a little bit. Once it gets about right there, and it can show a little bit again in real time. And that's about it. The rest, I can now confirm these, and then the rest I can clip. And so the rest of this is pretty much the same, so I don't need to keep all that. So I'm going to glue it up to there. Now the full video is about 27 seconds. That seems a little more manageable for the final video. Let's see what that looks like. So see, even this seems like a lot of dead time to me, because it took a little while there to turn around. So maybe I'm going to turn it to change the speed, go back to speed, and change it to 16. Now the full video's 17 seconds, so that cut about a good 10 seconds off of the whole video. Let's see. And see, the counter down here is going a little slower, so it's still not showing you the full accuracy. Once you export it, it will show the full accuracy as to how fast this will move. Okay, I think that works a little better. So now a few of the other edits I like to do is the Dolby Vision. This is a newer add-on and makes it HDR. So kind of just brings that pop, gives it a little more pop of light and dark. The parts that are brighter and the parts that are darker. Color Plus just kind of enhances the color a little bit. I usually like to go for 50. And Motion ND, I think, adds a really cool effect, especially to the sped up versions. It does do it to the regular one, but only if you'll only notice it if something's moving really fast at the normal speed. If it's like 1x, and something's moving fast, you'll kind of notice a blur, and it kind of adds a motion blur that I think is a really cool feature of this whole software. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if it shows you a little bit of the motion blur. Now see, and even that part, I feel still too long for how long that like before the boat starts moving, or yeah, the smaller boat starts moving again towards her. So let's see, it doesn't start moving till about here. At least you notice some movement. So I'm going to shorten this over here to about right there. But I have to go back and change some of the speed because it was already at 16 at that point, and I don't. Let's see. Now we added too much. Let's see. Was it already moving here? No, I want it to clip right when the little boat starts moving, right about there. So let's clip again. Right there. Right there. Now let's see. Now you can see it start to move. Okay, let's go back. Now I can stretch this speed one up to about after 2 seconds. So 1, 2. Drag this one. So this would be 0, 1, 2. Right about there. So now the whole clip is 14 seconds. So we trimmed an extra 3 seconds from the previous. And that works better. I like that more. There's less dead time in the other one. And for the final video, you don't want something too repetitive, so that's why I didn't want to keep that whole part in for too long. But on the ends, I don't mind it being a little bit longer because it helps with transitions sometimes. So if it lingers a little longer here, that's okay, but I don't want it as long as it was. And also at the end here, it kind of lingers a little, but that's okay for transitions later. So now we can export, and here we can export in the different resolutions. I still like to do 1080, mostly only because the files can get really big, and just to keep them on my phone gets kind of, I don't know, they're too big. And I think 1080 still looks pretty good. I like to remove the grain, so now we'll export. And it's usually pretty fast, but once it does get to the parts that you change speed, it does tend to slow down. So if you notice the first 0 to 20% of it went by pretty fast because it was still at 1x speed, and then after that, which changes to 16x, it does slow down on the exporting, and then at the end again, well, it will go back to 1x. You'll see it speed up again. But overall, I think it's fairly fast as to how fast this moves. Alright, and now it's done. Now we can check it in our folder and see what it actually plays out to be. You can see some of that motion blur there. And there we go. Now if we go back to the app, that's the 16.9 version. Now if we wanted something for YouTube or TikTok or something, you can switch it to 9.16 and it makes it. The edits usually stay pretty good, but sometimes you might have to adjust a few of them. So here, let's see how this goes. And as you can see, again, the quality does turn out better, but on the editing part, it does make it look a little fuzzy. But it does get better on the export. Cool, and this one was pretty good in that way. For the vertical ones, I don't mind doing a reduced resolution since it's for social media. So I'm going to put it as 720, remove grain again, and we wait again. Alright, so there we are, and we sped that up just for time purposes. It does take some time, maybe about 2 minutes that we waited here. but that's not bad. So let's check it. So here was the horizontal one. Now here's the vertical one. And that's what I love about this 360, that since it's taking everything in from all around, it can crop the shot to make it either the wide one or the long one. Cool. So there's that. Let's do one more. So here's another time-lapse one. Okay, and let me see. There's a mode. Oh, so this is actually what they call a time shift. So it's almost like time-lapse, but you could slow it down. It automatically puts it at a sped up rate, like this. But you could slow it down to 1x if you wanted. So there's time shift and time lapse. In a time lapse, you could not slow it down to 1x. Cool. So again, I'm going to switch it back to 16:9 and see how we can look around everywhere as we do it. And so what's so cool about this to me is you can get so many shots from just one video. And it even has an AI one up here. So let's try the AI one for this one. Oh, it doesn't let you use it for the sped up versions. I forgot about that. So never mind. Okay. Here, let's just do... We can either... Sometimes I like to do the full turnarounds where... How long is this video? So 8 seconds. So cut it into quarters and do a quarter turn pretty much every 2 seconds. So 4. Turn completely around. And 6. Another quarter turn. And then 8 back where we had started. Let's see how that works. I'm not happy with that one, so I'm going to change it again. Let's try something else. That's usually one of my go-to editing forms, especially for like time-lapse. But maybe it just sticks to facing forward. And you can kind of guide it again, like, so here's the front. It's going to be looking for another one of those nodes here. I don't like it really pointing at the stairs, so I'm going to point it over here. Add one there. And then again, back here straight this way. There, add one there. There we go. And so this last one maybe what we can do to make it a little more interesting. No, I guess make a view is as we can widen it a little bit like that, and it'll kind of take just a little bit of a wider stance here at the end. That's not too bad. That'll work. Let's go with that. So export again. And there we are again. And we sped it up again just for time. Let's check out the final result. And so here we go. Now another thing you might notice here, there's a little bit more clarity, and that's because it doesn't add the motion blur. And if I remember correctly, either the time shift and the other one doesn't let you, and time lapse doesn't let you add motion blur, but they might let you do it on time shift. Let me check again. Yes, it does. The motion ND. Okay, I'm gonna re-export it with the motion blur. And actually I didn't add these other things back in, so that's a good thing. I kind of forgot. That way I can add some of this back in. So the motion blur is added, the color to 50, and then Dolby Vision on. This is for HDR. Cool. So let's try that again. All right, so here we go. Sped up again for time. Let's take a look. So here's the regular one, the one we did just a little while ago. You can see a little bit of the sharpness and the jaggedness of how the quick movement. Now when we switch over to this one, there's a little more blur and it kind of makes it look smoother in a way, if you can notice that. And if you notice up here in the top left, it says HDR now because it has we added the Dolby Vision on it. Cool. So I like the way that turned out. Subtle differences, but I do prefer this one. Okay, I am going to delete this one. Now I have this. Okay, back to this one, and now export the 916 one. Now let's check it real quick before I export. And it's interesting to me how they both show you a little bit slight subtle differences. So here you can see my feet moving as I was recording on the bottom, and my head at the top towards the end there. And then the other one kind of shows you a little bit of the sides more. So I really enjoy having this camera when it picks up the little subtleties and how you can make it show and not show whatever you want. Alright, so here we go again. Sped up for time. But here's the vertical one now. And so pros and cons to the export process, but it doesn't let you do it in the background. You have to keep the app open there, as you may have seen on the little window there when it's exporting. So this, I love the camera. I love the shots it gives me, but it can be a little tedious. So I filled up a whole 128 gig memory card plus some other ones, and this is still just day 2. I already deleted some, but here's October 6th. Here we go. Let me see. We have October 5th, 6. We still have 7. Let me see how many videos are here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So sometimes I try to be more selective of what I'm doing when I'm recording, but sometimes I was like, if I want to get rid of it after the fact, I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So here again, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here we have about 60-some videos altogether. So to do that for all of them can get tedious. Some of them are a little bit easier depending on what I did. But I still definitely enjoy the camera. I still rather pay the price of going through this tedious process and getting the shots that I get than to not get them at all. So yeah, as soon as I got to finish all these and then reorganize them. Even though I already organized most of the other photos, I have to put them back into, if you want to check that video out as to how I organize a lot of the phone photos and our camera photos. We also had the previous one from this in the step in the whole process on editing some of our raw photos, the ones that can bring out a little more detail. It'll be good for prints and so on and so on. But if you want a great vacation video, you got to put in the work. And if you don't want to put in the work, let me know. I may be interested in doing some of your video work for your vacation. I may be doing a free one just so you can test it out and just so I can get some reviews. I've been doing these videos for our family since about 2008, but recently wanted to expand. I love seeing vacation photos. We all love traveling. We love learning new and seeing new experiences. And these are, again, things we didn't learn in school. You learn so much from traveling that would be hard to learn anywhere else just from reading books and so on. Like to actually live it and experience it and walk the path that the locals walk and so on and so on. So if you'd like to follow along, follow us, subscribe, like, and yeah, and if you're interested in your own video, let us know. All right, thanks. Bye.